Is your smartphone listening in to your conversations? D-Link routers report several severe vulnerabilities, and governments are gathering a lot of data on us from big tech companies. Welcome to Cybersecurity Today. I'm your host, Jim Love. D-Link has alerted users about several critical remote code execution (RCE) vulnerabilities in its discontinued DIR-846 router series, which have a CVSS score of 9.8, indicating high severity. The vulnerabilities identified as CVE 2024-44341 and CVE 2024-44342 involve OS command injection issues that could allow a remote attacker to execute arbitrary code on the affected devices. Two additional vulnerabilities, CVE 2024-41622 and CVE 2024-44340, also present high security risks with CVSS scores of 8.8. Now, these flaws enable attackers to manipulate parameters within the routers, leading to unauthorized command execution. Security researcher Yali 1002 discovered these vulnerabilities, and the issues affect parameters which can be exploited via crafted post requests or by an authenticated attacker. Given that the DIR-846 routers are end of life and no longer receive support, D-Link recommends users retire and replace these devices to prevent potential security breaches. The situation underscores the importance of regular hardware updates and the risks associated with using outdated network equipment, but the warning comes as part of a broader context where routers are increasingly targeted by cybercriminals and botnet operators. Earlier in the year, another critical vulnerability, CVE 2024-0769, was discovered in the D-Link DIR-859 routers, which also had reached end of life and were not updated to fix the flaw. Reports that we've read indicate that most of these devices were sold overseas, but given the severity, it may be wise to check if you have these in use anywhere in your organization. We've done a number of stories on the amount of data that large tech companies are collecting on us from our internet and social media usage. But it turns out that governments are also gathering the same data on us from these tech companies. There is, according to a recent study from Surfshark, a cybersecurity company, an increasing number of requests for user data from major tech companies made by governments. That study shows the scale and scope of these requests over the past decade. From 2013 to 2022, government agencies worldwide requested data from nearly 9 million user accounts across Apple, Google, Meta, formerly Facebook, and Microsoft. The United States leads the pack in data requests with a staggering 3.3 million accounts requested over that decade. To make comparison easier, the report expresses the number in terms of the number of requests per 100,000 people in a country's population. And when you put it that way, the U.S. government requests information on 989 accounts per 100,000 people, or if you prefer, 1 in 100 U.S. residents. That's 9 times the global average. Following the U.S. are Germany and the United Kingdom with 850 and 453 accounts requested per 100,000 people, respectively. The good news for Canadians is that we're number 27 on the world list, with a mere 145 requests per 100,000 people, or about 6 times less likely to request information on us. Still, the trend is clearly on the rise. In 2022 alone, the report notes a 38% increase in requests compared to the previous year. In fact, the number of accounts requested has increased more than 8 times since 2013. Now, how are the tech companies responding to these requests? On average, they're complying with 72% of them. Remember that idea that Apple guards your information? Not according to this report. In fact, Apple leads the pack with an 83% compliance rate in 2022, but the others aren't far behind. Google complies with 72.9% of requests, Meta about the same, 72.8%, and Microsoft is the lowest, complying with 67% of requests. As our lives become increasingly digital, governments are clearly seeing our online data as a valuable source of information for investigation. And as we've said before, why bother spying on your population when you can just buy the data from data brokers, or in this case, just ask for it from tech companies? And given how easy it is to get that data, it's a worthwhile question to ask, what are they doing with it? And how are they ensuring it's used for purposes they requested it for? And how are they keeping it secure? The same transparency that they demand or should demand of the companies and data brokers who gather our data. The report doesn't have those answers, but it does raise some interesting questions. And the report and many useful graphs can be downloaded from the link on the show notes at technewsday.com or .ca. Many of you might have heard someone you know complain that they'd just been talking about some product on their phone, and then they saw an ad for it a few minutes later, and many of you probably taken the time to explain how cookies work in browsers and reassure them that Facebook and others had no way to listen in on their calls, nor to leverage that for advertising purposes. And you would have been wrong. 404 Media reports that documents leaked to it revealed that one of Facebook's advertising partners, Cox Media Group, has reportedly used what they term active listening software that leverages smartphone microphones to capture real-time audio data from people's conversations. This data is then used to deliver more targeted advertisements on Facebook and other platforms, reportedly. The leaked documents reportedly reveal that CMG has pitched this active listening technology to its clients, and their pitch deck includes tech giants like Amazon, Facebook, and Google. The ability to eavesdrop on people's private conversations and use that information for advertising purposes raises some major privacy concerns. Following the report, Google apparently has removed CMG from its partner program, and Meta, Facebook's parent company, is now reviewing the partnership to determine if the terms of service have been violated. This admission understandably outraged many people and reignited a long-standing debate about the extent to which tech companies are willing to invade user privacy in the name of targeted advertising. For those wondering if this is really possible, apparently it is technically possible on older Android phones for sure, and a post on Apple Insider noted that it wouldn't be possible for iPhones because of the Apple OS requiring explicit user permission to use the microphone. And that might be true, but recently we reported that Office 365 programs used on a Mac were reportedly able to bypass some of these safeguards. Given the material supplied by the company, it would seem that they were able to make this work at least on enough devices to develop a working product. And one blogger from a publication called TweakTown raised another question. Is this even legal? Well, presumably, the question is, was this done with the user's knowledge? And the same post also states that the blogger has read the now deleted blog post from Cox Media's site, which stated in their multi-page user agreement, somewhere in the fine print, active listening was included. Now, whether this constitutes permission is again the source of continuing debate. And that's our show. You can find the show notes with links at technewsday.com or .ca. Take your pick. Cybersecurity Today will have its week in review show available early Saturday morning, and we'll return to our Monday, Wednesday, Friday routine next week. I'm your host, Jim Love. Thanks for listening.